Now how, oh, you're controlling that with your joystick. That's a good angle. No, just because the last one was so far away.
My good side.
It's my good side, yeah. Yeah, it's not, just don't get my bald spot. I can't say that, but there's no side. You gotta know side of the thing,
A little far away.
Oh, so you can't see the screen.
Well, I
Hey,
can't.
Dave, can you hear us okay?
I can't.
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dave, is that better than it was?
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, absolutely.
We brought the microphones right up front here to us. So.
Hey, Ethan, can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah, you guys sound real good.
Oh, good.
Good. Ethan, can you hear us?
He's on mute.
I can.
Awesome.
Great.
It's good. Is that the new wall behind you, Ethan, or not?
Now this is the old room I remodeled. I'm remodeling my garage right now. That's got all new stuff.
I saw your pictures.
Did you folks load a new client this week for Zoom?
What was the question, Dave?
The question was, did the township load a new client for Zoom?
Oh.
There was apparently a software upgrade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We used it for Sunday school yesterday and a lot of trouble till we got the new client.
Yeah, I think half the country's church population was shut down yesterday with Zoom.
Yeah. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Okay, welcome to the East Lampere Township Board of Supervisors meeting on Monday, May 18th, 2020. I do have a statement to read. Hello and welcome to the meeting. My name is Corey Meyer and I am the chairman. I want to inform all participants that this meeting is being recorded. Due to the COVID-19 virus, the meeting is being conducted virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The township building is not open for this meeting so that all participants can observe and maintain social distancing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The township is expecting to utilize this vehicle for all future public meetings during and after the COVID-19 crisis. Please continue to check the township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the township's website and will be posted on the front of the township building. Joining me in the room while observing social distancing are Vice Chair John Blowers. Joining me during the meeting via Zoom are Supervisor Dave Buckwater and Supervisor Ethan Demi. Assuming you guys can still hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Also participating to support the board and present in the meeting room is Ralph Hutchison, Township Manager, and Tara Hitchens, Planning Director. For those board members joining via Zoom, I've already confirmed you can hear me. If at any point you can't, please somehow let us know. In order to accommodate public comments at this meeting, the township will be accepting public comments in writing or via email. Instructions for the submission of public comments are available on the township website. We will now proceed with the meeting agenda. Let's call the meeting to order and let's pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we have number 3 on the agenda, public comment. These are for non-agenda items only.
We have not received any public comment.
Okay.
I've unmuted everyone if they
Okay.
have any.
We've unmuted everyone, so if anyone does have public comment at this point, we can accept it now. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 4 on the agenda, we have just 2 items to approve. We have approval of the minutes of the Monday, April 20th, 2020 regular meeting. And then we have approval to pay invoices from all funds. It's a total of $412,830.22. There was one item of note of the bills to be paid. It's $48,733 to the city of Lancaster for the 2019 nutrient credit purchase penalty. Any comments about the consent agenda from any board members?
None.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Second by Dave. Any other comments from the public? Okay, all those in favor? We'll do a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
And Chair, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we have no business under old business. And 6, new business. We have Nate's Automotive Land Development Plan 2002, 239 Maple Avenue. I believe Amanda Groff from Harbor Engineering is on. Hi, Amanda.
Yeah. Hi.
Amanda, we are sharing the screen with you, so if you want to pull up the plan.
Okay. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
So again, my name is Amanda Groff with Harbor Engineering, and I'm presenting on behalf of Nate's Automotive. And this property is at 239 Maple Avenue, which is in the Burdenhand zoning district. There's currently an auto repair garage on the property, along with a dwelling and a mobile home and a couple accessory garages. And the plan is to remove the mobile home that's on the southeastern side of the property and remove this one garage. And then the proposed improvements If I go to this sheet, this is our layout plan. They're planning to construct a much larger garage in place of where the mobile home was and where the one accessory garage was, and that will be for the auto repair garage. We're also proposing to change the circulation so that there's one in and one out for the driveways. And that will allow for better circulation around the site. And we also have parking spaces shown to meet the subdivision and land development ordinance and the zoning ordinances. The majority of these parking spaces will just be restriped. A lot of it's already impervious at the moment. For stormwater, we're proposing a subsurface infiltration bed. Which is between the garage and the house as shown in this area here. And that will collect the entire new garage and some of the other proposed improvements. We did receive some zoning approvals, including a special exception for an expansion of the non-conforming use on the property. And then we're asking for 8 waivers tonight. The first one is for section 303 regarding the preliminary plan. The next one is for section 403B regarding the plan scale. And I believe that was because we were at 20 scale for all of the plan sheets. And then the next 3 are kind of lumped together. They're all deferrals for road widening, curbing, and sidewalk along Maple Avenue. And if you can see on the plan here, we do have the future road widening, curbing, and sidewalk shown on this plan, but we're asking for a deferral until some of the adjoining properties receive the same improvements or until the township wishes to do so. So again, we're asking for a deferral of those 3 sections, which those sections are 503A11, 504A, and 505A. The next one is for section 505G, and that is pertaining to the sidewalk. Due to the proximity of this existing dwelling to Maple Avenue, we can't have the, it's recommended that the sidewalk is either has a 2-foot grass strip between the street and the sidewalk to keep the sidewalk at 4 feet, or the sidewalk has to be widened to 6 feet. But unfortunately, due to that proximity, we don't have the space for that. So it would only be this area in front of the dwelling where we would need that waiver, and that's approximately 25 feet.
Okay.
And then the last 2 waivers are both in the stormwater ordinance. It's from section 302A2C, which is regarding the loading ratio for karst geology. And we're slightly over on both the total and the impervious loading ratios. And then the last waiver is for section 307C1A4, which is regarding the stormwater pipe size. And we're proposing an 8-inch versus a 15-inch pipe because of the limited drainage area. And that is only for the pipe from this inlet IA1 to the clean out. We don't have any issues with addressing all of the comments brought up in the David Miller letter, last dated April 14th, 2020. Are there any questions?
That looks pretty clear. I can see
Item
that.
4, park and open space agreement, Mr. Chairman. Under subdivision, under subdivision land development.
This site is actually under 2 acres, and therefore it doesn't qualify as park and rec.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the board?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Nope, no questions for me. Mr. Chairman.
I'll accept the motion to approve the plan based on the conditions.
I'll make a motion that we approved Nate's Automotive Land Development Plan number 20-02, 239 Maple Avenue, conditioned on the letter from David Miller dated April 14th, 2020, granting the waivers 1 through 8. There's 3 deferrals but my motion would be to grant the waiver, the deferrals. And I'm trying to think here. One condition on item 6, the deferral it was conditioned that the proposed sidewalk less than 2 feet from the edge of the street be limited to approximately 25 feet. The county letter had no conditions so this would be conditioned on both the county letter and David Miller letter.
Okay. Okay. So everything in the David Miller letter and the county letter. Any other? Sorry, we had a motion from Dave. Thank you. I have a second.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Second by Ethan. Any comments from the board members?
No.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. I'll take that as no comment other than a cat. I'll look for a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Chair, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Very well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Good luck, Nate.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Next on the agenda, we have B, Stoltzfus Lot Add-on Plan 2003-2402 Stumptown Road. Anyone here for that item?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Whitmire with Impact Engineering
All
Group.
right. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I think we're sharing screen with you.
I am making every attempt to.
There we go.
You're sharing the screen with the cat. I know that.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Kevin, if you want to continue, you can.
Sure. Mervyn L. Stoltzfus Lot Add-on subdivision plan is a lot add-on plan. 2 existing tracks are identified as Lot 1, that's 2400 Stumptown Road. It's a 3.2 acre property containing a single family dwelling. Lot 2 is 2402 Stumptown Road. That is the 1 acre flag lot. It's kind of the east and the flag staff runs along the northeastern property line. The intent of the plan is to convey 2 annexation parcels identified as annexation parcel A and annexation parcel B from lot 1 to lot 2. Total area conveyed from lot 1 to lot 2 would be 1.302 acres. And that is the extent of the project. There are no planned improvements. It's simply a lot line adjustment between the two properties.
Okay.
So
Yeah, keep going, Kevin.
we're currently working with the May 8th review letter from David Miller and Associates. As you can see in that letter, we are requesting 1 waiver and 3 deferrals. The waiver being that we request that this application be allowed to proceed as a final plan, skip the preliminary planning step. And deferrals identified in the letter as comments 2, 3, and 4. They're all kind of lumped together, and it is a request of deferral for street improvements, including road widening, curbing, and sidewalk. Justification being from what we understand, Stumptown Road is functioning adequately in its current state. And there is no existing curbing or sidewalk in the vicinity there. So we're requesting that those improvements be deferred until the time at which township deems those necessary.
Okay. Great. Any other comments, Kevin?
As far as any the other items contained in the review letter, no issue complying with any of those three comments.
Okay, sounds good. Accept the motion to approve the subdivision plan.
I'll make
Oh.
a motion.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Stoltzfus Lot Add-on Plan 20-03, 2402 Stumptown Road, conditioned on the David Miller letter dated May 8th, granting the deferrals of 2, 3, and 4 of that letter, and granting the waiver of the preliminary to final plan.
Okay.
A second?
Motion was made, seconded by John. Any comments, additional comments from the board? Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, we'll take a voice vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Chair, aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, we have C, Carriage Machine Land Development Plan 20-04, 250 Maple Avenue.
That's me as well.
Okay, great.
So this land development property probably looks familiar to you. We've had two other land developments before you for the same property over the last 2 or 3 years now. The intent of this plan is to, Tara, if you can go to sheet 2, show the existing structures first. Right where the cursor is, there's 2 existing buildings that are proposed to be demolished as a part of this plan. The intent is to replace them with a single building with an equivalent gross floor area. That's shown on sheet 1 then, if you can flip back. Yeah. There's a bit of expansion in the paving associated with the project. So as a result, we also needed to prepare a stormwater management plan. There is a small stormwater bed proposed to go under the paving just to the west of the proposed 2-story portion of the building, right where the cursor is. Again, it's a pretty simple plan. We are dealing with the May 6th review letter at this point from David Miller, in which we are requesting 1 waiver. I'm sorry, 2 waivers. First one being waiver of preliminary plan, and the second being waiver of plan scale. We've used some larger plan scales for clarity rather than the typical 50 or 100 foot plan scales. And as far as the other comments contained within that letter, just to go through them quickly. The first one, as I mentioned, there were 2 prior land developments on this property in recent history. There is an outstanding escrow account for this property, which is noted in comment number 1 under saldo in the review letter. And as of last week, the improvements required for the release of that final escrow were completed, and David Miller was contacted for final inspection. So the intent is to close out that existing escrow and establish a new escrow for this project independently. And the only other comment there is just correcting a typographical error on the stormwater plan. So,
So David
any
Miller
questions?
has not been out to review the final changes they made yet. Okay.
No, no,
Yep.
The site does already have an existing deferral agreement for roadway improvements, sidewalk, and curbing that would remain in place for this plan.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, gentlemen, we have yep.
yeah, make a motion that we accept the final land development plan for carriage machine building replacement, 250 Maple Avenue, as per the May 6th review letter from David Miller Associates, granting with conditions, waiver number 1 and number 2, and then I guess staff, are we okay with these financial security of 12,000 with the 4,500 still open being combined with it? Is that the recommendation?
No, would be to close out the existing.
The
improvement.
4,577 would go away
Correct.
as of this, so we don't have to vote on that again. We don't have to are we okay here? We can cut the check and, okay.
As soon as we
Right.
have
Based on
the recommendation
Miller's-
from the engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Kevin, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. And I guess other notes, they're under stormwater management. So as per the David Miller letter of May 6th.
Okay, motion was made. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Dave. Okay, any other comments from board members? Okay, comments from the public? Okay, take a voice vote.
Aye?
Dave?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair, aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks,
good
Kevin.
evening.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, 7A, CV Region Comprehensive Plan Review, 5 years. Touch.
Yeah, 5 years goes by. But yeah, this was on Tara's list of things to do this year, and she prepared the review for both the CV plan and the Growing Greener LIMC plan. And those reviews and comments and recommendations were all reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting last week. They made recommendations to move forward with those.
Great. Carol, do you have any comments?
I was not planning to go through the entire memo, but I will make the comment that the Growing Together comp plan, we did check with Lancaster County Planning Commission, and that never was submitted by ELA Group when they reviewed it 5 years ago. So we will make a formal submission to Lancaster County Planning Commission with this memo, and that will serve as our requirement under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code as our review of a 10-year plan.
So the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the memo. Should we also approve the memo as
Yes,
well? Okay. And then it goes off to the county and
Yes.
right.
It'll go to the school district, it'll go
Right,
to
all
all of
the
our
different
partners.
partner groups. Great. Awesome.
But
Great.
that's just for the LIMC plan, not the CV region.
Right, the CV region
Cedar
one, we'll
just-
send to LCPC as, a courtesy, but we'll keep that
In
for
the
next 5 years when we submit for the full municipality planning code requirement.
local. Got it.
Okay.
Okay. So any questions to Tara on let's take the CV Region Comprehensive Plan first. Any questions for Tara?
Well, I have a question or two regarding the recommendation at the end of the report. Tara, is there anything you are looking for the board to do tonight regarding those recommendations?
Tonight, just to formally forward the Growing Together memo to Lancaster County Planning Commission and our planning partners under
Okay,
the MPC requirement. But other than that, I'm not asking you to say, we're starting the land use map update tomorrow. That's not the intent. It's over the next 5 years. These are the things that we need to look at getting done. It kind of serves as the roadmap for the Planning Commission.
okay, thanks.
Sure.
Got it. Any other questions from either the board or the public on the recommendations for the update to the 2003 DV Region Comprehensive Plan? Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve the memo.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Dave, second by Ethan. Any other comments from board members? Public? Okay, we'll do a voice vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Corey? Aye. Okay, that passes. Thank you. Okay, and then the LAIMC Region Comprehensive Plan Review. Any additional comments? Tara?
I have no other.
Okay.
additional comments.
Any comments from the board? Okay, I'll accept the motion, then I'll ask for comments from you guys.
I'll make a motion that we forward the recommended updates to the 2007 Growing Together Regional Comprehensive Plan. And then, Tara, are we forwarding this to our surrounding communities?
We will forward it to all of the original municipalities that participated in the Growing Together Comprehensive Plan.
Does not need to go to LCPC?
It does need to go to
Does need to go
LCPC,
LCPC.
and
Okay.
it'll go to to CV School District
Yep.
as well.
Okay. All right. Make a recommendation that we forward the recommendations there.
Okay, motion was made,
Second?
second by Dave. Any other comments from board members? From public? Okay, seeing no comments, we will ask for a voice vote.
Aye.
Aye, Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Tara.
Yes.
Okay, we have C, authorize eminent domain action regarding easement 160 Greenfield Road.
So staff, Charlie has been working on the project to make stormwater improvements in the Greenfield Road area, in the area that goes underneath the Amtrak line. And there were 4 properties that were affected by the proposed design to install additional stormwater pipe. 3 of those properties have approved of the necessary easements that we would need to make the installation and maintain the stormwater facility under their property. The 4th property located at 160 Greenfield Road has not. We've communicated with them on a number of occasions. The township solicitor had more recently in April sent them a letter asking for them to communicate with us about getting this easement completed. We have received some communication back. It wasn't complete in terms of trying to resolve the issues, so we had asked them to provide us with more information on what they were looking for in an easement agreement. We haven't received that to date, and so I'd like to ask the board for your authorization to take the next step in moving towards the eminent domain process so that we could acquire this easement and make the necessary improvements in that area to improve the flooding conditions, the public safety issue that we have down there. So we would hope to negotiate a resolution rather than having to actually go through eminent domain, and they've indicated that, you know, that's still possible. But I think the timing is such that, you know, if we're going to get this done in in a reasonable, it's already been designed and ready to go for a long time. So we'd like to get this in the ground so the improvement can be made. But, take the time to negotiate if we can.
Okay. Questions for Hutch?
So they are indicating perhaps maybe some interest in talking.
Yeah, I think the last communication that we got from their legal counsel indicated that they were interested in some changes to the agreement that we had prepared, the easement agreement that we had prepared. And so we were asking them for, more information on what they were looking for so that we could determine whether or not those are things that the township can do or can't do, or at least bring that back to the board and say, here's what they're looking for. And, you can decide on whether you'll agree to that in order to move this forward.
I mean, it's a community infrastructure project. This isn't as if this township, this local body is looking to take somebody's property for, some other business use or, the use of something that is an ancillary use for the community. It's this infrastructure that, if I recall from the lengthy time we've been talking about this, there is not going to be any structure that's put on his property. There's not that's going to be something that's going to impede him from getting in and out of his property, correct?
There'll be nothing above ground. We'll be putting a pipe network underground. In this particular case, it would go under the parking lot area. It's up against the property line as far as we could put it, so that if they wanted to put buildings or structures that, they still have zoning setbacks, so this wouldn't interfere with any of that. There'll be some inconvenience during construction, to get the facility installed, but then, we've already included in the agreement that everything would be restored to its condition.
And there would be nothing preventing this business from using the parking spots that are above ground, or are we removing those from their use?
No, they'd still have those, once the construction is complete, of course,
Right.
they would
Yeah, I mean,
return use of the parking
during
space.
construction, would they still have access to park there, or would there just be a few spots taken up?
Yeah, there'd be a few spots that they could not park in during the construction process. They'd still have access to the property,
Sure.
be able to get in and out for some of the parking spaces, but there are some that would be impacted during the construction.
And Mr. Chairman, I would love to think that we could work with
Right.
a business in the township to come to an amicable solution to this, but it sounds like the doorway is still open, but we've worked on this for quite some time and we've had many discussions. So I would have no problem in taking this to that next step. I would like to have staff and council do all that they could to try to work with this property owner.
It sounds like this step could speed up that process, essentially, just because of the, frankly, threat of eminent domain. Okay. Ethan or Dave?
Well, none of us have any, find any pleasure in using eminent domain to do what we need to do here. But everyone that's familiar with this location understands why it's necessary to do something about drainage there.
Right.
And this has been going on way too long, in my opinion, as far as the dialogue. And I certainly support this action. Hopefully we don't have to take it the full course to eminent domain, but if that's what it takes, we need to get it done.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Dave. Ethan?
I think Dave summed it up very well.
Yep. Okay. I'll look for a motion to authorize eminent domain action regarding the easement for 160 Greenfield Road.
So moved.
I'll take John as the so moved and look for a second.
Second.
Second by Ethan. Okay. Any other comments from board members? Any comments from the public? Okay. Take a voice vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a resolution regarding request to move county from red phase to yellow phase. I'll do my best to explain it. Hutch, help me. Sounds like we have three different potential resolutions on the table. The first resolution, West Hempfield Township, I want to say about 2 weeks ago now, it seems, they put together a resolution and passed it at their township meeting. And then it sort of made its circles around the township community through various circles, and other townships have either passed it or turned it down, frankly. As an alternative to that resolution, and as time went on, the state Senate passed Senate Bill 327. I want to say that was sometime last week, and then it moved over to the House of Representatives, Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and they passed it on Friday. So we have a second resolution that essentially simply says that we support Senate Bill 327. I have a few comments about Senate Bill 327 that I'll make in a few minutes. And then thirdly, Mr. Demi put together a resolution in favor of Senate Bill 327 with some additional details. And Ethan, if you want to maybe talk about those comments first,
Sure.
about that resolution, then we can figure out where to go with these three resolutions.
Yeah, so basically my resolution just adds two other pieces, which is the governor could move Lancaster to a yellow phase. We'd like him to do that. The county commissioners have expressed a desire to reopen Lancaster. We'd like them to continue doing that. And we support Senate Bill 327. So basically that ask the governor, ask the commissioners, ask the legislature to move Lancaster into the yellow phase.
Okay, let me just touch on Senate Bill 327, since both of those resolutions mention that bill. Essentially, and I took this, thank you to Senator Ryan Allment, because he put a nice summary together, frankly. The bill allows the county's governing body to develop its own COVID-19 mitigation plan to fit the unique circumstances and needs of their own communities. The plan must be created in consultation with county health and emergency management officials. The bill would also allow businesses to open only if they can comply with the mitigation measures outlined by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, CDC, and the Pennsylvania Department of Health. If signed into law, the bill would offer relief to many East Lampeder employers who were forced to close by Governor Wolf and were subsequently denied a waiver from the DCED to continue operating. So there's a resolution that originally came out of West Hempfield. We have a resolution supporting Senate Bill 327, and then a third resolution that Ethan just described that had some additional details in addition to in agreement with Senate Bill 327. I guess the best way of taking this, I would like to pass one motion, not vote on each of them individually. I guess which one. So frankly, I'll accept a motion for one of those three, and we can vote if that wins and passes. We'll pass that.
Sure. I appreciate you putting that together, Ethan. Thank you. I got to see that at the end of the day. I mean, I think, overall, we're all wanting to try to move Lancaster County into that next phase of strictures and restrictions, loosening things up a bit, and ensuring that we have all the proper safety protocols in place and the means to respond to whatever may be the implications of the public moving about more than it's been. I was very happy to see the Senate and in the House do what they did. So appreciate you detailing that, Corey. I personally would like to see us just keep it as simple as we can. The one that has made its way around the municipal community over the past 2 weeks was extensive, lengthy, and I think doing things like this, the public wants to see something that they can understand, they can read, they can comprehend it. It's not too complicated, and I like the fact that the governor can take certain actions. Could certainly move on the plan that he already has in place, and he could take that action, and he has in many other counties, half the counties in Pennsylvania. I believe he's moved to the yellow. But I think overall, the Senate Bill 327 definitely speaks to a plan on behalf of the county governing body, and ensuring that the county has done certain things. I like the way that calls that out. So whereas the governor could just certainly move and move the county to the yellow, I think our board of county commissioners and our state delegation have all come together and have worked together to send a statement to the governor on our behalf. And I think I like the more simple resolution, the one just basically calling for us to support Senate Bill 327. So, I mean, that's sort of where I would come from.
Okay. Any other comments before a motion is made?
I'll just make a comment. I mean, the big one is, Senate Bill 327 is on the governor's desk right now, waiting for him to sign it. Odds of him signing it are slim to zero. So my concept of adding what the county commissioners are doing, I want to make sure that at least the residents know that preferably, hopefully we all support, but I support the actions and the desire of our county commissioners and most of the delegation of Lancaster County as well, to say we're supporting you guys and doing whatever you can to put pressure on the governor as well.
My thought, this is directed to our governor. This will be sent to our governor. So the comments that Ethan added, directing it to the governor, I think are acceptable. I guess I feel fine with those comments. They were just additions, not any changes.
Yeah, for the record, I support anything, all three of them. So.
Yeah. The only question I have, Ethan, did the county? I know you used these words for a reason. The county commissioners didn't actually vote on anything related to the opening, correct? They just sent the letter.
They sent a press release. They took multiple steps that would facilitate, creating a plan to reopen, and they also reopened county government. But when I reviewed, I didn't see any specific action to reopen, but I saw quite a few steps heading in that direction. So the way I worded it was, we support their efforts and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Were Heather Adams' comments regarding prosecution independent of anything else the county was doing?
It was from her vantage point as the district attorney. It wasn't in the same press release that I saw them release.
Okay, that's helpful.
So it sounds like, Ethan, you agree with all three resolutions. I guess I'll look for a motion to accept one of the resolutions.
I mean, I'll go ahead and make a motion to support the one that I wrote, which is to support Senate Bill 327, ask the governor to also move us to yellow, and express support for what the county commissioners are attempting to do.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
Just I guess one question that I would have there, and just once again, Ethan, I agree, with all you're saying there. Trying to get this moving. I think it's a great way of saying it, is just everybody just keep moving this along, and speaking to everybody about it. I just want to make sure that we all understand that there have been threats that the governor has used, targeting certain programs and initiatives that counties and localities are working on. Just want us to make sure that we all understand that is a potential. I certainly don't see Ethan's resolution as a threat at all. I mean, it's very, very, I think, diplomatically worded, so I wouldn't want to say that that's causing anything, but just recognizing that I think anything that we do here, has the potential of some backlash for us. So just
Yeah, and my comment, I think, would be similar to John's. I understand exactly what Ethan, what you wrote, and I feel like the simpler resolution just in favor of 327 is frankly the safer thing to do, and for me the more comfortable thing. I have reservation about some of the additional language in your resolution. I appreciate it. I just I'm slightly concerned. So.
And I hear the concern. My response would be, I think it's unconscionable that the governor would potentially threaten funding for public projects that have nothing to do with what we're talking about. If we acted that way in response to, we don't like what the business is doing, what they say on their social media, and we're gonna not approve a permit, we should be thrown out of office if we acted like that. So frankly, the idea that we're potentially scared that the governor's going to cut funding for some of our projects, I think should give us cause to have concern about the governor.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Perhaps at this point, we have a motion and a second. I don't know, would you consider it appropriate to take some comment from some of our residents that might be online?
Absolutely. Yeah. Any other comments from any board members? We're good there? Good.
I have none.
Okay, good. Okay. Any comments from the public?
Tara, you'll have to unmute.
I did.
Oops.
If they're still muted, they've muted themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, gentlemen, or whoever's on the phone, if you do want to comment, you can personally unmute yourself and make a comment. Whoever speaks first, you can go. Okay, so we have a motion made and second for, I'll call it for the third resolution, Senate Bill, the one that Ethan wrote, in support of Senate Bill 327, with some additional details that we've discussed. I'll do a voice vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
And Chair, aye. Motion passes. Okay. We have next on the agenda, we have E, review of ordinance 312, regulation of transient retail business. I asked Hutch to put this on the agenda. I think in your packets, you have the ordinance of the Township of East Lampeter regulating transient retail businesses, peddling and soliciting and providing for exceptions, licensing and enforcement of the ordinance. First comment I want to make is I like many, many things of this ordinance. I have, anytime people come to my door that are not under the exceptions of this ordinance, I always ask if they have a permit from the township, and they never do, and then they typically leave the neighborhood. So I think it does its job that we have an ordinance, although I'm probably the only one in my neighborhood that knows we have this ordinance. But the main reason that I'm here, that I wanted this on the agenda, was the section around food trucks. So since the pandemic started, probably, I would say more recently, I would say in the last month or so, I've been getting constant questions from neighbors that are either looking to reach out to food trucks, or food trucks, or they saw on social media that food trucks were in different areas of, frankly, our township, or other townships that they know of, and they asked me, can we have a food truck in the neighborhood? So I reached out to Hutch and remind me of my favorite ordinance around retail businesses, and peddling and soliciting and so forth, and reviewed that, and we clearly have some rules and regulations around food trucks. Essentially, food trucks need to have criminal background checks for the individuals that are in those food trucks. There's application fees. Application fees are $50. Annual permit application fee per location. So for example, they set up in my neighborhood once a month, and once a month, say in the Falls at Old Mills, or once a month in Highland Acres. That would be 3 different locations. There's also a $25 annual solicitor fee per person per location, which again, if a food truck has a few employees and those few employees, sort of rotate, they of course would have to have that solicitor fee again per person per location. I was in contact with, actually before I go there, I did reach out to see if we had any applications filed, and Lieutenant Matt Hess is responsible for those applications, and I believe he had not received any applications.
That's correct.
I know we've had plenty of food trucks in the township based again on social media over the last month or so. I again reached out to a few of the food trucks just to understand from their perspective how other townships handle it, and I did some research on my own. Lancaster City clearly has a very I'll call it strict policy, similar to our policy, process in place and forms and fees, etc., that person or business must fill out for that food truck. West Lampeter, Upper Lake Hog, Manheim Township, I was unable to find any specific rules or regulations regarding food trucks. And if anyone knows of any regulations or rules that I just was unable to find, I searched typical things in their ordinances around food, transient, retail, all sorts of different things. I could not find anything. I think during this pandemic, families are trying to find a safe way to, have something to do outside the house, but do it in a safe way as well. Still following DOH and CDC guidelines. I started following a few of these different food trucks online, and one, as an example, Lancaster Burger, on their social media post, essentially they set the rules of again, ordering ahead of time to help with, people queuing, but also, social distancing and making sure that it's as safe as possible for the people that would be using the food truck. Again, the original intent of the ordinance, I think, does a great job of discouraging, door-to-door sales, and, gives us a tool in the toolbox to, if someone is, doing some sort of peddling or soliciting or taking orders, being able to ask them if they do have a permit, and if they don't, clearly the police will keep them moving, but typically just telling them that there is a process, they can keep on moving. Again, I was in contact with two different food trucks, Walco Taco, Christy and Lex Miranda, and Joe from Lancaster Burger, and I asked them essentially what do other municipalities require when you go into their municipality. And the first thing is these businesses typically don't know municipal maps. I think I told John this. One of the food trucks asked me, can you send me a map? Because we probably were in your township, don't know exactly, where the township lines are for certain, certain areas. So the common themes I heard were certificate of insurance naming the township. So if a food truck would set up shop, say, in front of my house as an example, they would have a certificate of insurance naming the township. They would be on a public road. PA Department of Agricultural food license. Lancaster Burger added a Serve Safe food certificate. You notice those in many restaurants. You see those certificates of showing safe food handling. I think the other thing, based on the business model, these types of businesses. Unlike the city, where a food truck sets up the same place every single day, 5 days a week. The only way for these food trucks to stay in business is to not overrun the same neighborhood. So if we would, and I do have a recommendation, in my recommendation I talk about not allowing food trucks being in the same place, more than say once a month, as an example. And I'll go through those in detail, but I think our policy, similar to the city policy, is about those food trucks, again, that come to the same place, same time, same location. It makes sense. The fees make sense in that scenario. But because a food truck would never do well, if Lankster Burger came in front of my house every day, it's not going to do well the second time or the third time, right? It's sort of the novelty of it. So my recommendation is to essentially relax the rules if we can, in an easy way, for a period of time, maybe for a couple months, through the summer, maybe to the end of the year, maybe relook at the ordinance going forward, or maybe we just change the ordinance. But essentially what I was thinking the process would be that food trucks would email the township designee the name, location, their phone number, contact name, date and time of the event, and then those forms: certificate of insurance listing East Lampeter Township, PA State, Department of Agricultural certification, and we can throw in the Serve Safe food certificate. So essentially they're proving that they are a real business and that, they have insurance, and they're of course listing us based on any, insurance rules that are appropriate. I did not look into that. For the location, of course, we'd want them to be in a public road with safe sight distances, so they're not, causing any traffic concern. During this time, they should follow all CDC and Department of Health guidelines regarding our current health status of the county. Food trucks could be on site a maximum of 4 hours. Again, looking at these social media posts for many of the trucks, they're typically on site for doing business per se for 3 hours, but you have to think they have to maybe set up and then clean up. So food trucks, again, could be on site for a maximum of 4 hours. Allow the food truck to set up in a location with 1,000-foot radius 2 times a month. And if you think of my neighborhood, and all of you have, of course, been in my neighborhood, if you took 1,000-foot radius, say from my house, that would essentially be the entire neighborhood and maybe a street to the north, south, east, or west. So the thought there is that you don't want a food truck. We don't want food trucks in our neighborhood every single day of the week. This again should be sort of a novelty thing. So I'll read it again. Allow individual food trucks to set up in a location two times a month. So that's the food truck. Allow a maximum of 2 food trucks per week in that radius. So during a month period, you could have Lankster Burger on Monday, Monday night dinner, and then Friday lunch could be Waco Taco as an example. But again, 2 food trucks per week in that neighborhood. So think of that 1,000 radius again as my neighborhood as an example. Again, the purpose for those guidelines is that without putting those guidelines, there could be a run on neighborhoods with lots of food trucks. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking just for, the ability for a food truck to, occasionally to be in neighborhoods and not have to pay, essentially those exorbitant fees, I think, based on how food trucks work. So those are my recommendations. Again, just at this point, I'm looking for, I frankly suggest relaxing, see how it goes, and then we could relook at the ordinance to maybe make a long-term change. I probably have to change the ordinance anyway if we want to do relaxing. Is that true, Hutch?
Yeah, the ordinance, I mean, ideally, the ordinance would be modified. I think the other aspect of this is that, at least with food trucks, there's been two parts of this. One is the zoning issue,
Right.
where we've essentially said they're permitted in zoning districts that permit food sales, so commercial districts typically.
Okay.
So in addition to
Right.
the transient retail stuff, you'd want to permit them in residential areas as well, under the zoning ordinance. So, I mean, with the, it's not a feedback thing.
I don't know what that was. Yeah.
So with, the transient retail, ideally, you'd modify the ordinance,
Right.
but
Zoning
we
issue.
could relax how we deal with that a little easier. The zoning ordinance, it's kind of tough. You've got those regulations that
Right.
are land-based, and so we need to do something in the ordinance to address that, I think.
How about if the food truck, so another township on west side of county set it up in a park. It's actually East Hempfield, I think. I think it was East Hempfield. Set it up in a park that's connected to one of the neighborhoods. I think it's the EG neighborhood, actually. So I think there's a park near that one. Would there? I mean, again, I'm not trying to pass something just for Southridge Farm. You do have parks around the community. Would that be a safer place for people to go? And just another thought, we're the park plan talked about getting community together. Now, of course, we're in the pandemic and so forth. We frankly don't want a ton of people together in one spot. However, the plan does talk about, making a sense of place and getting people to meet their neighbors and so forth.
It does, and definitely, parks are great places to have community gatherings in any circumstance other than a pandemic. But,
Yes.
if people can, observe the appropriate social distancing and,
Right.
wear masks and not be shaking hands all the time, I think, it's workable in the parks. There are some existing, again, ordinance park
Right.
rules and regulations that would need to be addressed
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But parks could certainly be
Yeah.
included.
Okay. Thoughts from board members?
I have a few thoughts. Generally, I'm a big fan of food trucks. We discussed this a few other times in the last 6-7 years. Simply, I'm in favor of anything that makes it easier for businesses to adapt to the changing circumstances, because they can do it faster than we can change an ordinance, which I think is what you're seeing right now. As far as the transient retail business, I don't really see a benefit in that either, which is the people who are going to try to follow the law are either going to just not do any retail business, or they're going to get a permit, but based on the number of permit applications we get, it doesn't really work. And the people who are going to not follow the law don't care what our ordinance says anyway. So it might be a useful tool to sort of harass someone who's trying to harass you back. But I think this doesn't stop people from knocking on our door, which no one should be walking door to door on our street anyway, but you still get the guy selling hoagies out of his trunk who pull into your driveway. And if you make him leave, he just goes to the next township. So I don't think it fixes anything generally. So our food trucks, I'm all for them anywhere, anytime. I think if people don't like them, they're gonna not buy from the food truck in their neighborhood.
Dave?
Well, you're mentioning food trucks that I'm not even familiar with. I'm sorry. I can appreciate. I wasn't sure if you were referring to a food truck like Schaum's that don't sell. If I understand it correctly, they do not sell ready-to-eat food.
Yeah, no,
Correct.
these food trucks sell tacos, burgers, all, already made up, just like a restaurant.
Rita's has one. If they go to Rockville for when they have the fire companies there, or at Tanger outlets, they'll bring a food truck in,
Okay.
like an Auntie Anne's food truck.
Yeah, I'm with Ethan in terms of allowing businesses to adapt. So I have no problem with a modification here to allow a little more flexibility.
And then if we want a permit application to use public land like a park, we can make it as simple as possible for someone to come in. But these food trucks are already regulated. They've got regulated by the state. So unless we had a health department or the county had a health department, then I think we would have a bigger leg to stand on as far as enforcement and inspection. But since we don't, I don't see us needing to necessarily regulate them at all.
When we were reading this, of course, I signed it in 2015, so my name is on it. But as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, why not allow a food truck to be in a neighborhood as much as they want to? If the residents stop buying, the food truck stops coming.
Right.
And if they are buying, the residents must want it. I mean, it's not like, I'm setting it up and I'm knocking on your door and forcing a burger on you. It's like, oh, wow, I want this, so I'll go patronize them and they'll stay. That's more of an ideal. But I'm probably more supportive of consistency across municipalities. If I owned a small food truck business and I was trying to do my business on Saturdays, across Lancaster County, I'd love the opportunity, or I'm not quite sure why they wouldn't start going into suburban neighborhoods. What an opportunity.
Right.
But I'd hate to then think, oh my gosh, I got to go from one municipality to the next. I don't even know where the borders are. I operate a food truck. I work 65 hours a week. I have to get a permit to go into one. I can't go into the other. Inconsistency in local government is always just an impediment. So I don't know if we're helping or not, staff, in our comments here, but I'm in line with where the board is leaning is let's encourage business to do what business does, which is, entrepreneurial, kind of morph and find ways to do things. But I'd rather we try to find some consistency with our neighbors instead of, we open something up, but then the food truck guy goes, well, yours is so different than the next one over. We've gone out of our way to help builders over the past 30 to 40 years develop consistency. They're building hundreds and hundreds of homes and doing millions of dollars of business, and I'm trying to help a food truck guy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the food truck operators realize that the city is different. The city has pretty unique rules, and for good reason. But the suburban townships, it would be nice if we were consistent. Now, to be consistent again from what I saw with West Lampeter, Manheim Township, what was the other one that I looked at? Upper Laycock would be to just completely remove the rules. Now, there may be something in the zoning, which I did not, there could be something in that I just didn't see. But, I don't know if I kind of would like some sort of process, at least tell us you're going to be in a neighborhood and send us your certificate of insurance if you're going to be there for 3 or 4 hours, which sounds like is pretty standard. They at least have that on them, I'm assuming, if someone asks for it. So I guess what I'm hearing from the members of the board, that we would like to relax in some way. I want to do it in a legal way. I want to do it in the right way. So maybe staff could go back and just give us your recommendation and based on what you heard today.
Sure. I think if you want to address this for this summer, we will need to draft something, get it advertised so that you can have it in front of you at your next meeting, which is the 15th of June.
Okay.
So we'll have to work with the solicitor quickly to draft something that, and we'll we might be circulating that, outside of meeting times and
Fine.
having individual discussions so that we
Sure.
can sort of develop that.
Yep.
So we'll work on that.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yep. Thanks. Okay. We have reappointment to Park Board, term ending 5/5/2025, Mr. Jim Eberhard.
So moved.
Yeah, thank you for
Okay.
Jim for, it's a motion made by John, second by Dave. Any other comments from the board?
He's done a great job. I'm
Yeah.
glad to have him. He was very involved when he was in the city for
Yeah.
many years in city stuff. Just glad to know he's involved in the township.
Great. Any other comments from the public? I agree with John. When I get to come to a park board meeting, he's always engaged and a good member of the board. So, okay, all those, I'm sorry, roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Chair, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jim Everhart. Okay, managers report, A, MS4 report.
Okay, there hasn't been a whole lot of activity MS4 wise, so there isn't a whole lot to report, but I did want to share with the board that we did get our letter from DEP indicating that our 2018 annual report had been reviewed and found to be complete and acceptable.
Awesome.
So that has been done, and the 2019 report is to be prepared and submitted next month. So the beat goes on there. You'll probably hear me say this again later on, but until we get the stormwater fee in place and start generating revenue, we're going to have difficulty keeping that program going. So I wanted to share that with the board.
Okay.
The Lincoln Highway Streetscape Plan implementation, we haven't had a lot going on there either. The engineers were shut down for a while. They couldn't even do surveying work during the phases of COVID implementation. So now that that's been relieved, they'll be able to get started on doing some survey work to get our phase 3 project, which is the multimodal project, moving forward. So we meet again with our engineer in early June, and so we'll keep that going. The Rockvale Trail project, we're working with the property owner and waiting for that process to move forward with the board as to the proposed zoning ordinance change. And depending upon how that goes, we'll determine, what's going to happen as far as redevelopment there and how the trail project will proceed in conjunction with it. So that's what's been happening with Streetscape for the most part. The Walnut Street Extension and the Greater Lancaster Heritage Pathway project continues to move forward. As you know, High Associates is moving that project forward. They towards the end of April, they submitted their first set of line and grade plans for both the street extension as well as the pathway. So they're in PennDOT's hands and being reviewed currently. The other thing that I wanted to mention this evening was where we are as far as pandemic response. At this point in time, we continue to have the township offices remaining closed to the general public. We have made, with township staff's help, arrangements to provide, all township services despite that limitation, and I think that's been working out pretty well. We continue to review and monitor this posture, and we're making plans for operational changes to prepare when the building does reopen to the public. We have been continuing to rotate between working from home and working on site. After this past weekend and the amount of activity that was happening, we've decided that we're going to change that posture. We're going to bring everybody back to normal scheduling. The police officers in patrol, that'll be the end of this week. And then everybody else starting right after Memorial Day, the beginning of next week. So we'll be back at full staff on a regular basis. We are waiting to hear from the county regarding the process that would be used to seek reimbursement for expenses that we've had related to COVID. And the county's working on the process for making CARES funds available to municipalities. So once we know what that process is, we'll participate in that. And if we can't get reimbursement there, then there is the option to go through the state for additional federal dollars. So we'll be working on that. And then finally, I did prepare a memo and got that to the board about our estimates of revenue loss from what we're experiencing with the COVID pandemic. We're expecting that it is going to have a significant impact on several of the township's significant revenue sources: real estate tax, real estate transfer tax, earned income tax, local services tax, and the admissions tax. And at this point in time, I've estimated that compared to budgeted amounts, that in total, we're looking at losses of about 1.2, just under $1.2 million in this year's budget. So with the department head's assistance, we looked through the budget and we're identifying things that we felt we could forego this year that were included in the budget and to reduce our costs in the general fund. And so we at least so far have identified budget changes that would amount to $963,454 of budget savings. In addition to looking at those, we looked at the current fund balance in the general fund and what was expected at the beginning of 2020 through the budgeting process. Turned out to be a lower estimate than what reality was. So we had several $100,000 more at the beginning of the year than we expected to have. So that'll help from a cash flow perspective in getting us through this time of lower revenue sources. As I said earlier, with respect to our MS4 program and the related pollution reduction plan that we are still obligated to fulfill by 2023. The stormwater fund at this point in time has been essentially supported or funded through the general fund. And so there are several $100,000 of costs that were anticipated to be funded by the stormwater fund that have up until now been funded through the general fund. So once the stormwater fee is in place, we'll be able to both start to repay those amounts into the general fund to support the general fund operations, and also be able to move forward with our pollution reduction projects and the stormwater coordinator so that we have the right staffing in place to go after getting those projects completed, in addition to handling the regular MS4 activities, which all of those activities have been picked up by existing staff members. So in order to get them back to doing a lot of the things that they need to be doing, that would be important. So at this point in time, the stormwater fee is scheduled to be implemented starting with the next billing, which would go out July the 1st, with the regular sanitary sewer billing. I know there's been some concern that during this period of time that we've been going through and the economic impact that the pandemic has had, that maybe some change to that schedule should be considered. And obviously that's based upon the structure. That's a decision that the sewer authority would have to make. But I know from having talked with them about that last Wednesday at their regular meeting, they would really like to know how the board would feel about that before they would want to make that decision. So I share that for you. And regarding those budget expenditure changes, if the board feels comfortable with those or would like us to look for additional changes, or you're not comfortable with some of the changes that I've outlined there, we'd like to hear back from the board on that as well, so that we can make the necessary changes to the budget so that staff knows how they're moving forward for the remainder of the year.
Okay, you gave us a lot. So let me
Yes.
break down a few of the things and try to get some direction for you. So let's take the stormwater condition position, coordinator position. Let me just ask a question and then clarifying question and discuss a little more. If we gave direction to sewer authority to push that off, let's just say to December, is the stormwater coordinator position still necessary now? Are those, meaning, is the fee the big reason, or are there many other projects you still need the stormwater coordinator position?
Well, the issues related to the fee, where that position is going to be important, is really related to the credit policy.
Okay.
And making sure that we're in a position to implement the credits as those
Right.
applications start to come in. So that is an important function there. The other regular MS4 activities and the pollution reduction plan projects, in my view, really need to have a coordinator in place, because existing staff isn't going to be able to move those forward in the way that they need to be in order to be successful. So, yeah, those are the main reasons why
And
we
the
need
budget cost for the stormwater coordinator position, roughly with benefits,
that.
60 to 80.
Yeah, we're probably in the $75,000 range.
Okay. Okay, so let's have a discussion about stormwater coordinator position first. Dave, Ethan first, any thoughts on that stormwater coordinator position?
Well, I'm concerned that if we put it off, the effort will be slowed down in order to meet our goals. And I guess I feel like if you would bring somebody on, it's not likely that they're going to be running full speed right away. I mean, there's going to be perhaps a learning curve, if you will, to understand our processes and what we need to do. So I'm a little concerned about putting those things off, and I guess I feel the same way about now. This would be the next discussion regarding the fee.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dave, your point, the MS4 requirements, the federal requirements aren't going away. State requirements are not going away. They're probably going to get more difficult. We're not going to get any reprieve that we think at this point. So,
I mean, as staff has outlined here, Mr. Chairman, the requirements are there. We need someone to help us to be able to meet the requirements to drive towards the initiatives that are going to help us to meet the requirements.
Right.
If we don't have that individual, if we don't have the fee, we can't hire that individual. If we don't have that individual, we can't address the requirements. If we want to address the requirements, we're going to have to place some burden upon the general fund, which means we're still faced with dealing with the cost. Yet in the general fund, we're going to have to pay for those costs through property taxes or other things. We've already initiated the process to adopt the stormwater fee for this. It makes more sense to look at things that we can affect in the general fund, administrative positions, other recommendations that staff is making, attack that way, but don't do that through the stormwater. I think we have to move forward, letting the fee drop in place July 1st and starting to accrue those fees for the position of the stormwater coordinator.
One of the comments that was made while we were deciding on a budget and the tax rate was that we kept our tax rate the same, and with the understanding that there was going to be an added fee for the stormwater. That was part of the discussion back in December.
Right. Yep. Thanks,
Correct.
Dave.
Correct.
Ethan?
Yeah, so I think we should continue moving forward with it. So as far as the budgeted position, I think we should continue with that. As far as delaying or recommending to the sewer authority that they delay implementation of the fee another quarter, I mean, we've already delayed it a couple times. What I'm hopeful for, and I'm working on a draft resolution to present to the board for our next meeting, but I'm hoping the state will extend, the DEP could extend the deadline due to this. And the main reasons why they should extend that deadline for our 5-year deadline, which would help us with the delay here, is we haven't been able to necessarily, because of the shutdown, we weren't necessarily allowed to be working on those projects during one of the construction season. We already have an economic strain. And the other big thing is, if you've been out in nature recently, the lack of sort of large scale activity is, things are greener and the water is cleaner than it's been before. So I'm hopeful that with that DEP will actually delay some of the implementation requirements. But again, I don't think we should plan on that. I think we should continue to move forward with our plan, but delaying the fee by a quarter, I think should be considered, especially given the timing of that and the fact that we've already delayed it a good bit. I mean, it could be we could delay it and increase the fee. It's one of those, it's similar to many of the other things that Ralph has already provided for us as far as budget recommendations. I don't like the idea of just eliminating investments in our future, whether it's stormwater or the firefighter apparatus fund. We shouldn't just cut something from that. We should be deferring those payments and looking to, as things start to pick back up, sort of double down on our commitments to fund those things. So the things need to be funded regardless of what's going on right now, but we can shift some of those payments into the future. So we can both shift the payments into the future, but also some of the revenue generation as well. So if you pushed off a stormwater implementation or shifted the fee, you could also increase the fee for that remaining, instead of a 5-year. We were looking at a 5-year fee, then it was a 4-year fee, and now we're down to 3 years. And we can still get some of the same revenue is going to come from the same taxpayers no matter how you slice it. The key is, do you want to pull that revenue when they need it most or when the economy is doing a little better? So it's a long-winded way of saying I'm okay with deferring some of these things as long as we still have the commitment to, when times are good, to continue and increase our funding for them.
I hear full agreement on the stormwater coordinator position. Yeah, so I'll continue with that. Ethan gave I would say, a slightly different, well, an option, right? I mean, we have to collect an amount of money. You either do it, over smaller increments over 5 years, or, the same amount of money over 3 years. So it ends up being a bigger chunk in each of those 3 increments instead of being 5 increments. My thought to the sewer authority my feedback would be, we have delayed it. I mean, it's everyone knows it's happening. Dave mentioned, we did not raise taxes based on that fee happening. I clearly understand it is not the best timing because of the pandemic and business impact, but the DEP or the feds, if they don't let us up, we're gonna do the work. So I would say continue with the fee at this point, get the credit process up. With lots of businesses take advantage of those credits and end up with cleaner water and end up where we need to be at the end of that period. Okay. You also asked about the potential cuts from the budget, ranging from radio earpiece replacements at $1,000 to bigger items like the community service aid positions that we talked about in the budget. Any comments or questions from the board on these, the total of $963,454 worth of savings, I guess, call it, reductions in the budget?
I would pick up Ethan's line of argument for most of that. If there are items in there that staff is looking at that we're committed to, we need it. The projects and initiatives require these. I'd be supportive of pushing them off, but recognizing that if they are essential, if we do need them, that we look at putting in place the funding mechanisms to make sure that they happen as the economy turns. We're all doing it in our businesses that we run or we own. There are things that we're holding off on doing. But most of those things that I'm doing, I'm holding off on. I'm going to have to do those things at some point. I just recognize that I'm going to do them when the economy turns. And so to that point, I would say I've found nothing in there I could quibble with, because I think staff's combing through it. They do the work. They know what's in there.
Right.
I would support that with that caveat that says, come back to us then in the future as we prepare for 2021, and we determine, okay, what's essential, and then we have to make the decision, do we raise the revenue at that point to do it? In my thoughts.
Okay. Any other thoughts or direction to staff?
Yeah, and I just to be a little more specific, there's a couple big ticket items in there. I mean, the fire apparatus fund is the big one, and in that 2019 to 2025 option, I see those as we're eliminating the payment in 2020, but I don't see that coming back in. So it's eliminating a $200,000 payment or eliminating $100,000 of it. But if we're going to eliminate that, we should commit to increasing the funding in the next 5 years so that it does get back up to what we originally planned. A lot of these things, we don't have a whole lot of things in our budget that are just extra stuff. We still are going to need fire trucks, and they still need to be purchased. So we can defer some of those payments, but that does mean we need to increase them in the following and subsequent years. Similarly, our transfer to the OPEB fund at $383,000, we still have those liabilities, but we can defer paying those liabilities a year or maybe 18 months or 2 years, but that just increases the amount we're going to have to pay in the future. So that's the big one on most of these, is recognizing we can defer some things for 1 year and see how the economy rebounds or doesn't, or how long it takes. But at some point in the next couple of years, we are going to have to make the hard decisions to make those payments, and we need to make them. So, I mean, these aren't things that, we can just choose not to make payments on.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the staff did a very, very good job of looking through and saying, what things could we get by for a year not doing? But most of these things are things that we do need at some point, so we can't just cut them.
Right. And I guess it sort of goes without saying, in this year in 2020, there are no choices to be made on how to raise these revenue sources.
Right.
So we've
Right.
got to do something this year.
Right.
I did provide analysis of the fire apparatus replacement fund, and indicated that there would still be more than enough funding available to fund at least the next two pieces of apparatus. So, going forward further into the future, yes, you can see, what happens in terms of the cost of those vehicles and how you want to change the funding going forward from there. So yes, there probably will be a need for funds to be deposited and changed going forward.
Yep.
Same thing with the OPEB. We are in the process of completing the actuarial analysis of the OPEB situation. So the actual actuarial determination as to how much is needed is going to be coming in the coming months, so we can address that in that way as well. So I agree with everything that was said. We're going to need to look at these things in future budgets.
Yeah. Now, for those transfers, those actually happen. We're going to reverse those back.
Right, we would reverse those, yes.
Okay. Got it. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. Was there anything I missed from a direction perspective? Were you looking for any other?
Just to sort of restate, I want to be clear. So the expenditure reductions that we identified, the board's comfortable with those. We'll move forward with those changes. The stormwater coordinator position, the board would like us to move forward with getting that position filled. And even if that means that the funding is from the general fund for the time being. In terms of the stormwater fee, I guess I wasn't sure that I heard a clear consensus on we're billing that in July or we're not billing that in July.
Well, I think it's the sewer. It's a sewer authority position. They're looking for a recommendation from us. I would say continue with July. Ethan, you gave a little variation on that. Would you agree with that? I mean, we could put it to a vote and see how we all vote, but
Yeah, I mean, it's their decision. I'll put it this way. I'm comfortable shifting it one more quarter.
okay. So that would be a start in September. Dave, July or September? I'll give you two choices.
I guess the position I had outlined was go ahead with July, but I'm fine if you put it off a quarter.
Okay.
I'm in favor of July.
So John's July. I'm July. Dave, you're sort of July.
Yeah, I'm July.
Okay. Is that okay?
Okay, I'll go back to the authority and convey that mix of opinions.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you for the mix. Okay.
Before, Mr. Chairman, before we go away from Ralph's report, I wanted to ask Ralph if he wanted to make any announcements regarding census, surveys, that type of thing.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, we would like to continue to encourage our residents to participate in the Census 2020. It really does make a difference in shaping the future for how funding is distributed, and it's really important that they do that. We have been seeing information through county sources and the information that's published even more widely that Lancaster County is doing pretty well in terms of response, but we need to do better. So we're hoping that everybody will participate.
And there were kudos to Alicia, right? She did a video, I don't know, 45, 60-second video. Nicely done. So,
yeah, it's gotten a lot of attention on the website too.
Yeah,
so
cool.
that was neat. The other things we wanted to encourage people to do would be to participate in 2 planning surveys that are out there right now. The first one's in the Bridgeport area for what's been called the Bridgeport Mobility Plan. And then the other one is for the Old Philadelphia Pike Corridor planning effort that's going on. So those surveys are available both through County Planning Commission website as well as our own. And so we'd ask people to give us their thoughts on both of those planning efforts.
And then radon.
Radon, yes. DEP sent out letters to all of the township's residents last week. So if you got them, it's not a scam. It's a real opportunity for you to get a free radon test kit and see if your property has radon and needs to be addressed. So
Does DEP still have a list of contractors? They had that years ago,
yes,
recommended contractors. Okay.
they have those that have been authorized to provide mitigation services. Yes.
Yeah, I just went through the process maybe about 2 months ago or so to do the test. I was at 10.4, so not crazy bad. 4 is the recommended, you're over 4 to first get it mitigated. So test was about, I don't know, $30 or so. There's some tests out there that are cheaper. You can get online, but this is a great. I did notice it is first come, first serve. So they don't have, 15,000 tests available for East Lampeter Township. So lungradonkits.org/PA, you submit your zip code and fill out the information from there. So.
Mr. Chairman, I called EPA this morning. I wanted to know, I'm a skeptic, not that I never thought this was a scam, but I'm always concerned about databases being maintained about Dave Buckwalter somewhere that I have no idea where it is. And I was satisfied with the response. What they do is they hired a firm, I believe it's from Texas, to do these tests. I think they put it out for bid. And basically, I think all that you might expect in reply to it, it's, you know, in addition to your results, is that part of what they do is they share some of the information with people that do provide the remediation, the service. And so you might get a postcard, but that's the extent of it. So I was reasonably pleased with the response and ordered one this morning.
Yep, great. Okay, any other comments from board members? Any other comments from the public? Okay. Thank you all for attending. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor, let's do it that way.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Thank you.
Thanks.